Making a bunny girl. Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how I made the body of this possible doll. She is a bunny girl, but you will get an idea of how I usually make human bodies. When I make an articulated doll, I have to draw the design first, and I draw the skeleton on it, so I can make it with the right proportions. I make the skeleton twisting wire. I used 2 pieces of 1 mm thick wire for the arms and 3 pieces for the legs and the torso. For the fingers, I use 0.5 mm wire to make them really thin but still possible. I made the fingers twisting a piece of wire and then use the part that remains and twist to fix them to the palm. I do the same with the legs and arms, using the untwisted parts to fix them to the torso. I use different numbers of pieces of wires and thicknesses depending on the weight that each part has to support. As you see, I made a structure for the ears too. This way they will be possible. It's helpful to design as much as you can before you start working, so you don't miss steps or overwork a hidden part. As you see, I don't draw everything in detail, but I had pretty much the whole idea planned. I use epoxy putty to protect the joints and make the bones. This way, I limit where the skeleton can bend, avoiding that the elbows or the knees bend in a strange place. You can use flour, baby powder, or water to help you work with epoxy. It's a really sticky material. I use the kind of epoxy that's used in plumbing. This kind of epoxy dries really fast, so I can keep working after this. Now I cut the foam for the first layer of volume. I use universal glue to stick the pieces. Later, everything will be covered with fabric, so I don't need a super strong glue. I first cut the foam in rectangles. I cut it giving it a simpler and bigger shape that the body will have. I will use polar freeze later to smooth all the shapes. I cover all the fingers with cloth tape. To make them thicker and prevent them from going through the Lycra, I'm going to use later a skin. Here I'm starting with the first piece of polar fleece. I use pins to place it and know where to cut.
I think it rooted in the way I breathe. And I get drunk on a boy who asks me if I'm up, tells me he can't understand his luck, to know me, to love me, to hold me.
When all the excess fabric is gone and I have an idea of how it's going to look when it's sewn, I take it off and copy the shape symmetrically in another piece of fabric so both legs look the same. Then I took one piece and placed it again with pins.
And nothing says she hates me, and I don't think that I hate me, but bad or good seems nothing could take away.
And I start to sew using a stitch with the needle parallel to the edge of the fabric, taking a bit of fabric on each side and closing. I call it invisible stitch because when it's well done, the thread is hidden. Let me know if you don't know what I'm talking about and want a better explanation. I close the 2 legs and then sew them together, till they look like a pair of leggings.
To him the whole world is a stage, while I am 50 shades of beige.
For the torso, I cut a rectangle and make a hole for the neck. I cut the fabric if it's necessary and fold it to make the waist smaller. I like Polar because it softens the shapes and can hide the seams. For the skin, I like the finish that Lycra gives, but it is a very thin material and shows all the little imperfections you can have under it, so the Polar is perfect to put it between the Lycra and the foam.
And nothing says she hates me. I don't think that I hate me, but bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze of mine.
For the arms, I follow the same steps as for the legs. The only difference is that I make a hole for the thumb.
But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze of mine.
And when I sew within the fingers to be sure the palm is well covered.
And I don't think that I hate me.
Sorry if I talk weird, it's hard for me to speak in English. I hope I will improve with time. I have to record each sentence separately, so I'm sure I'm going to sound really strange.
Takes me, and I think I'm going crazy. But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze of mine.
I use a borax ball for the head, but first I shape it with a scalpel. I like to use these balls because it's easy to find them in different sizes, and mostly because how light they are and how easy it is to change their shape.
I want a people that I can call home. But why do the work when I'm doing just fine?
For this doll, I had to cut the head in two halves so the ears can come out of it.
And I don't mind being alone. Oh, 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 oh. I'm doing fine, be on my own. Sometimes I worry that people can hear what I'm thinking spilling out of my ears.
I made some space inside the head, put the skeleton inside, and closed it with universal glue.
Talking to people's a game I can play.
Then I cover the head with Polar to soften the imperfections.
I'm working
Later I will embroider the tails on the face and it will be easier without the risk of picking or scratching the ball.
but I get rosy when I say goodbye.
I cut 2 circles of Polar and sew them together, covering the face and the back of the head.
But why do the work when I'm doing just fine? Oh, on my own. Oh, 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 oh. And I don't mind being alone. Oh, 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 oh. I'm doing fine, me on my own. Oh, 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 oh. And I don't mind being alone. Oh, 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 oh. I'm doing fine, me on.
Now I'm making the ass. For this I cut 2 pieces of Polar with the shape of an egg.
What you want from me? And I'm trying to read. Oh, 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 oh. And I don't mind being alone. Oh, oh, oh.
I sew the 2 parts to the body and not to each other so it has a more realistic shape.
And I don't mind.
I usually sew it leaving a hole on the top to put the filling inside, but in this case I use foam instead. As you see, both material works, so it depends on what you have in hand. You can make Polar patches to add volume to any part of the body you want. Here I'm adding volume to the hips because I wanted them to be wider.
Torn apart.
As you see, you can make patches with foam or filling inside, or use several layers of Polar.
Way I breathe. And I get drunk on a boy who asks me if I'm up. Tells me he can't understand his luck. To know me, to love me, to hold me, show up.
I added volume to the knees and to the belly too.
I'll be your empathy.
The Polar is a bit higher, so it hides the seams quite well.
You can pray.
and when you put the Lycra on top of it, you can see very little where the patches are.
Carve into your ribs and leave you crying for a kiss just for kicks. And nothing says she hates me, and I don't think that I hate me. But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze, and nothing
I used Polar to correct the shape of the shoulders too.
I'm going crazy.
Here I begin to add the Lycra.
Bad or good seems nothing could take away.
As you can see, the method is basically the same I used to cover the legs with Polar. But this time I'll only cover a part, so the other part of the leg will be covered with socks. And there's no need to lose time covering all the leg. When I cover the body with Lycra, I like it to be well tense, so wrinkles don't come out.
Sometimes I think, is this the way I'm supposed to be? Was I just built differently? Or is there something wrong with me? There's a circuit in my chest unconnected from the rest of my mind, and it's the spot where my words are getting caught, and I try to walk it off, but my brain is filled with fog, disconnecting my mouth from my thoughts, and nothing says she hates me.
For the arms, I draw the contour of the hand and part of the arm with the thumb stretched on paper to make a pattern. I draw the pattern on a piece of Lycra folded to avoid a seam on the top of the arm. I sew from the thumb to the little finger using a stitch that goes back and forth. This type of stitch is resistant and has some elasticity, which will help to adapt it to the hand and the fingers will not break.
Take away this tasteless haze of mine.
You have to cut between the fingers until the end, being very careful not to cut the thread. Then I turn it inside out with the help of a stick.
But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze, and nothing.
I put the hand inside the glove and cover the rest of the arm with the rest of the fabric.
But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze of mine.
I begin to sew on the tip of the little finger and close it until I reach the armpit, using the invisible stitch. The hands are wider than the arm, so I can't make a glove that covers everything. But this way the fabric is very tight.
I put my foot in my mouth again. I hope they still wanna be my friends.
For the head, I cut a circle of Lycra with a cut for the neck. I put it with pins and sew it, tightening the fabric to the back.
I kept repeating myself yesterday.
You have to visualize the highline and avoid crossing it with wrinkles. This way, all will be hidden under the hair. You can tell me what you like to see in other videos. This video goes very fast and I did not record the whole process. You can get an idea of how I make the bodies of an articulated doll. But tell me if you'd like to see some part in detail. Here I'm covering another part of the legs. As you see, I don't cover it well. That's because at the bottom it has another type of fabric.
I calculate what I'm going to say. Talking to people's a game I can play. I'm working hard to look like I don't try, but I get rosy when I say goodbye. It's probably true that I wanna be known, but why do the work when I'm doing just fine all on my own?
Here I'm making the soles of the feet with cardboard covered in Polar.
I don't mind being alone. Oh, 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 oh. what you want from me.
I make the pads with pink Lycra and hide the smile magnets on them to help the doll stand on a metal base. I sew the soles of the feet to the legs.
I used to be overwhelmed by every little thing, torn apart, unraveled at the seams. I think it rooted in the way I breathe.
And I added foam covered with polar to make the tips of the feet.
On a boy who asks me if I'm up, tells me he can't understand his luck, to know me, to love me, to hold me, show up.
Here I'm adding more hairy fabric to the legs.
Call me up, I'll meet you.
I wanted the doll to look semi-human, a quarter bunny and 3/4 human. A bit like a costume, but at the same time is the shape of her body. And she has this cute pose.
And nothing says she hates me, and I don't think that I hate me. But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless.
Now I add a piece of polar to the neck to give it some volume.
Takes me, and I think I'm going crazy. But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless.
For the breast, I cut 2 squares of polar and sew them into 2 balls.
I met a boy who never knew the taste of haze. To him the whole world is.
I put them in place with pins and sew them to the torso.
50 shades of beige.
I don't use a special stitch for this. I just make sure they are well fixed in place.
Is this the way I'm supposed to be? Was I just built differently? Or is there something wrong with me?
Then I cover the whole torso with Lycra. As you see, I cut a piece of Lycra, put it with pins, and cut the excess fabric. Sometimes I use this purple marker. It is a phantom marker, which means the ink disappears without leaving stains after a few hours or days, depending on the weather, the material, and how it's handled.
Say she hates me. I don't think that I hate me. But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze of mine. Overtakes me, and I think I'm going crazy.
I closed the piece of the torso using invisible stitch until all the polar was hidden.
Take away this tasteless haze of mine. Nothing says she hates me, and I don't think that I hate me. But bad or good seems nothing could take away this tasteless haze, and nothing overtakes me, and I think I'm going crazy. But bad or good seems nothing could take away.
Now I'm making the ears with Eva foam. I cut the shape with a scalpel and sew it to the wire without any special technique, just to keep the foam in place and give consistency to the ears. Then I cover them with pink Lycra. Here I also don't use a specific stitch, since the stitching will be hidden under the furry fabric I'm going to sew over.
I got desirable qualities.
For this I used Minky, what is a very soft fabric but not very nice to work with.
I kept repeating myself yesterday. Repeating myself, I keep on yesterday. I want a people that I can call home. But why do the work when I'm doing just fine all on my own?
Now I use black thread to make the shape of the chest visible. I use this as a guide to make stitches with white thread that stick the fabric to the lower part of the chest to mark the shapes in a more realistic way.
What I'm thinking spilling out of my ears. I calculate what I'm going to say. Talking to people's a game I can play. I'm working hard to look like I don't try. But I get rosy when I say goodbye. It's probably true that I wanna be known. But why do the work when I'm doing just fine all on my own? And I don't mind being alone. I'm doing fine.
I wanted her to have a nice cleavage, so I used a piece of polar to tighten the breasts, giving a wonder bra effect.
Being alone. I'm doing fine. Me, I'm at and I'm trying to read.
I made the belly button, even knowing the dress was going to cover it, in case it shows under the lycra.
And I'm trying to read.
I don't have more footage of it, I'm sorry.
I don't mind being alone.
This is the final result. This was a commission, and the client wanted a bunny girl that looked cute at the beginning, but that when she took off her mask, she was a creepy girl. She gave me a lot of creative freedom, and this is what came out. Gracias, Lena, por apoyar tanto mi trabajo. And thanks, patrons, for making this possible. Tell me how I can make this a better experience for you. See you soon. Bye!